The frozen stranger's snow fell quietly on planet Zeta 7. The wind was cold and sharp, like tiny knives cutting through the air. White hills covered everything. There were no animals, no people, just ice and silence. Eli Walker, a human explorer, walked through the snow with heavy boots. His face was half covered with a mask and his eyes looked tired. He was collecting rock samples for a research mission. His small ship was parked a few kilometers away, and he planned to return soon. Suddenly, he stopped. There was something on the ground ahead, something small and strange. Eli walked closer. It looked like a body, curled up, almost hidden in the snow. His first thought was, "It's a trap." But then he saw movement, a small hand, fingers twitching. He stepped closer, carefully. Was a child. No, not human. Her skin was light blue. Her hair was silver, frozen in little strands. She had long ears and thin arms. She was shivering, almost not breathing. Eli looked around. Still no signs of danger. "Hey," he said softly. "Can you hear me?" The girl's lips moved. No sound came out. He pulled off his thick thermal blanket and gently wrapped it around her. She was cold, colder than anything he had ever touched. He lifted her slowly, holding her close. As soon as he touched her, her eyes opened. They glowed bright white. Eli took a step back in shock, but she didn't move. She just stared at him, like she was trying to understand if he was real. Her lips trembled. Then she whispered something in a soft voice. "Run." Eli froze. "What? What did you say?" She tried to speak again, but she fainted in his arms. The wind howled louder now. Something was coming. He didn't know what, but he felt it deep in his chest. Eli turned around and ran toward his shelter, a small research pod hidden under the snow. He carried the alien girl like she weighed nothing. His boots sank into the snow with each step. Back at the pod, he opened the door with a press of his glove. The heat inside rushed out like a warm breath. He laid the girl on the bed, wrapped her in more blankets, and checked her breathing. It was weak, but still there. Eli sat down. He looked at her glowing face. "Who are you?" he whispered. She looked so small, so lost, like a snowflake that had fallen too far from the sky. He opened a small notebook and started recording. Day 34. Found unknown life form. Appears to be a young female alien. Humanoid. Severe hypothermia. Spoke one word. In English, "Run." I don't know what it means, but I think she was warning me. Outside, something made a soft clicking sound. Eli stood up quickly. He looked out the window. Nothing. But his heart didn't believe it. He turned back to the girl. She was still sleeping, but her fingers moved like she was dreaming. Or remembering. Then, the lights in the pod flickered. "Come on, not now," Eli muttered. He checked the systems. Power was fine, no storms reported. Flicker again. The screen flashed once. Incoming signal detected. He pressed a button. Static. Then a voice, garbled and broken, came through. "Unit 749. Return. Mission unabort." He frowned. The signal was coming from orbit, from his own ship. But something felt wrong. He turned back to the girl. She was sitting up, eyes glowing, breathing slowly. "You need to go," she said in a small, clear voice. Eli stepped forward. "Why? Who are you? Why are you?" She looked at him. Her eyes were full of fear and something else. Pain. "They will find me. They will find you too." Eli shook his head. "I'm not leaving you." The girl's glow softened. She whispered, "Then they will come for both of us. And then..." The ground shook. Not much. Just a small rumble. But enough to know. Something big had landed nearby. Eli grabbed his tool pack and closed the door tight. He looked at the alien girl. She looked back at him. Neither spoke, but both knew nothing was going to be the same again. Voices in the snow. Snow fell heavier now. The sky outside the pod was turning dark, not because it was night, but because something above was blocking the light. Eli stared at the tiny alien girl. She sat quietly, wrapped in his blanket. Her eyes no longer glowed, but her presence still felt strange, like she didn't belong in this world, or any world. He was still trying to understand what had just happened. She had spoken English. Barely. She had warned him. And now? The ground was rumbling again, softly, like a heartbeat in the snow. Eli broke the silence. "Who is coming?" The girl didn't answer right away. Her fingers were moving on the wall beside her, drawing strange shapes with her nails. Circles. Lines. Patterns that made no sense to him. He stepped closer. She whispered, "They're called the shadows." Eli's eyes narrowed. "What are they?" She paused, then looked at him. "They take light and voices and people." Eli felt a chill run down his spine that had nothing to do with the cold. He pulled up his holocom and scanned for life signs outside. Nothing. But that's what scared him. Too quiet. No wind. No signal. No birds. No wild energy in the atmosphere. Even his pod systems were slowing down, like the planet itself was holding its breath. The girl spoke again, softer this time. "They heard me when I called, when I used the last of my power. That's why they're here now." Eli sat down across from her, trying to stay calm. "Listen," he said. "I don't know what kind of trouble you're in, or who these shadows are, but you're safe here. I won't let anyone hurt you." She looked at him, eyes wide and sad. "You can't stop them. Not with guns. Not with ships. Then how do we stop them?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached inside her suit and pulled out a small glowing object. It looked like a crystal, but it pulsed, like it was alive. She handed it to him. "This holds a memory of what they did to my world." Eli took it carefully. As soon as he touched it, the pod's lights flickered again and the room dimmed. A hologram appeared in the air. It showed a beautiful alien city floating in the clouds. Peaceful. Shining towers. Sky bridges. Flying creatures. Then, darkness. Ships like black knives cut through the sky. Strange shapes moved in the fog. People screamed. But there was no sound. Only static and flashes of light. Buildings vanished into smoke. And then, the city was gone. The hologram faded. Eli stared at the girl. "You were there," she nodded. "I escaped. Barely. And the shadows, they're still following you?" She nodded again. Eli stood up and walked to the pod's control panel. He sent a ping to his main ship in orbit. No reply. The signal was being blocked. He tried to scan the area. Nothing. Then suddenly a strange sound echoed outside. Not footsteps, not a machine, a whisper. It was soft, like someone calling his name through a dream. "Eli." He froze. The girl looked up sharply. "Don't listen." Eli's blood turned cold. "What was that?" She stood up, walked to the window, and stared into the snow. "They don't always speak with mouths," she said. "They borrow voices." Eli walked slowly to the door and looked through the small security cam. At first he saw nothing. Just snow. Then something moved. Far away, at the edge of the white storm, there was a tall, thin shape. It had no face. Just a long body like it was made of smoke, walking without touching the ground. "Okay, that's it," Eli muttered. "We're leaving." He grabbed his emergency pack and checked the transport rover. Still working, but power was dropping fast. "They drain power too," the girl said. "Of course they do." Eli sighed. He looked at her. "What's your name?" She blinked, then slowly said, "Syria." "Well, Syria," he said, opening the pod's emergency ramp. "Stick close to me, and if one of those shadow things shows up again, don't look at it." She nodded, holding the crystal tightly. They stepped outside into the snow. The world was completely silent. Eli started the rover, and they sped off toward the nearby canyon, hoping to reach an old science outpost there. It had stronger defenses. Behind them, in the blizzard, something followed. The whispers returned. Softer now, almost inside Eli's head. He looked at Syria. Her eyes were glowing again, brighter now. "I can hold them back on for a little while," she said. "How?" he asked. She didn't answer, but her hands started glowing too, and behind them, in the fog, the shadows screamed, not loud but sharp, like glass breaking in his ears. Eli pressed the rover faster. Then, the snowstorm stopped suddenly. They had reached the canyon. Eli brought the rover to a stop outside the old research outpost. The place was half covered in snow, but the doors still worked. He helped Syria inside and locked the doors behind them. They were safe. For now. But as he looked at her, he knew this was no rescue mission anymore. This was a war, and he had just stepped right into the middle of it. Chase through ice and fire. The old science outpost was cold, broken, and forgotten. Metal walls were rusted. Screens flickered. The wind outside screamed against the steel like it wanted in. Inside, Eli worked fast. He was patching the doors, checking the energy cells, and trying not to panic. Syria sat in a corner, hugging her knees. Her eyes were dim now, like a dying star. Eli paused. "Hey, are you okay?" She didn't look up. "I used too much of my light," she whispered. Eli nodded. "Well, you saved us. Those shadows almost reached the rover." She raised her head, slowly. "They are not shadows. Not really. They are what's left after a soul is taken." Eli stopped working. "You mean, like, ghosts?" She shook her head. "Worse. They remember who they were, but they don't care anymore." Chills crawled up his spine. "Okay," he said, trying to stay calm. "Let's assume a bunch of soul-eating fog monsters are on our tail. We can't stay here long. This place has no long-range comms, and we can't call for help." Syria nodded. "They'll find us soon." Suddenly, crack. A loud sound shook the room. Metal groaned. The outer wall dented inward, like something had slammed against it. "They're here," Syria whispered. Eli looked at the security feed. Static. Then, just for a second, one frame showed something standing right outside. Tall, thin, faceless. "Eli?" The whisper came again, this time inside the outpost. Not from outside. Eli turned around fast. No, one there, but the room felt colder. Lights dimmed. He ran to Syria. "We're leaving. Now." She stood slowly. Her hands glowed faintly again. "I will try to hold them." Eli opened the maintenance tunnel at the back of the outpost. It led through the frozen canyon, a risky path, but better than going out the front. As they stepped in, the wall behind them exploded. Shadow tendrils rushed in like black smoke snakes, twisting and reaching. Syria turned, raised her hand, and a pulse of light burst from her chest. For a second, the tunnel lit up like a star. The smoke hissed and retreated. Eli didn't wait. "Move!" They ran through the narrow tunnel, their footsteps echoing loud in the silence. The lights above flickered, and behind them came the sound of whispers growing louder, angrier. They turned a corner and came to a huge frozen drop. A deep ice ravine. Eli stared. Oh, great. A dead end. Syria didn't stop. She walked to the edge, closed her eyes, and pressed her hands together. The ice beneath them glowed. Then shifted. The frozen river cracked and reshaped itself into a narrow bridge of glowing blue. Eli blinked. "I don't know how you're doing that, but don't stop." They ran across. Halfway through, the shadows behind them screamed. The bridge started to melt. "Run!" Eli shouted. They reached the other side just as the ice behind them crumbled into the ravine. They didn't stop running. The tunnel opened into a wide valley between cliffs, covered in snow and old wreckage. Pieces of ships and machines from long-forgotten missions. Eli spotted a broken drone skimmer ahead. A half-crashed flying sled. He ran over, checked the battery. It was old, but it still had power. Get in, he told Syria. She climbed in and the skimmer roared to life, rising a few inches off the ground. Eli drove fast, zigzagging through wreckage, snow rising behind them like waves. But then, the shadows rose ahead. A huge shape blocked their path. One of the creatures had grown, its smoke tentacles forming long arms and claws. It reached toward the sled. Syria screamed. Eli swerved. The sled tilted. One side lifted high, almost flipped. But he kept control, barely missing a fallen engine. Block the shadow chased them. It didn't run. It glided. Fast, and it was gaining. Eli's fingers gripped the controls hard. I need ideas. Syria opened her palm and showed him the glowing crystal again. This will burn bright once, she said, but it will take something from me. What does that mean? She looked at him. I don't know if I will wake up again. Eli's jaw clenched. No. We'll find another way. The shadow was right behind them now, almost touching the skimmer. The ice cracked from the weight of its dark energy. Syria looked back and jumped. She jumped off the sled. No! Eli shouted, slamming the brakes. Syria floated in the air. She held the crystal with both hands. It began to glow so bright it hurt to look at. The shadow screeched, tried to pull away, but the light wrapped around it like a net. Eli jumped out and ran to her. The light exploded. Boom! The sound was silent, but the world shook. Snow flew everywhere. When it cleared, the shadow was gone, and Syria had collapsed in the snow. Eli ran to her, lifted her in his arms. She was breathing, but just barely. Her glow was almost gone. He carried her back to the skimmer and laid her down gently. He looked around. No more shadows. No whispers. For now, he looked down at Syria's face. You didn't have to do that, he whispered. Her lips moved, barely a whisper. You would have done the same, and then she fell into deep sleep. Eli started the skimmer again and headed toward the old human base deep in the glacier fields, his last hope for real help. But something told him this was only the beginning. The hidden memory, the old glacier. Base hadn't seen life in years. Thick ice covered its metal walls. The door hissed when Eli forced it open, groaning like a forgotten ghost. Lights flickered dimly inside, emergency power only. The air was heavy and cold. Eli carried Syria. In his arms, she was still unconscious. Her skin was pale. Her glow had faded almost completely, but she was alive. He laid her down gently on a padded bench inside the med bay and searched the drawers for anything useful. Most supplies were expired or frozen solid. He found one working bioheater and placed it next to her. Slowly, her body temperature began to rise. Come on, little light bulb, he whispered. Don't fade out on me now. Outside, the wind howled across the ice, but the shadows didn't follow. Not yet. An hour passed. Eli sat by her side, staring at her face, still trying to make sense of it all. She looked so human, yet not. She had risked her life to protect him, twice, and somehow she held power strong enough to burn a creature made of pure nightmare into ash. Who was she? As he sat there, his glove beeped. A signal. He jumped to his feet. The base had picked up an energy spike. It was coming from a sealed room 2 floors below. Eli grabbed his gear and went to check it out. He climbed down the icy ladder into the darkness. His flashlight lit the corridor. Dust floated in the air and the walls were covered in frost. This part of the base hadn't been touched in decades. At the end of the hallway was a door. It buzzed weakly. He tried the panel. Locked. Then, something strange happened. Syria's crystal, the one he had taken from the sled, began to glow in his pocket. He pulled it out. It pulsed once. The door opened. Eli stared, then stepped inside. It was a memory chamber, an alien tech room. In the center, a tall glass pillar stood humming quietly. Inside it was a glowing orb, similar to Siria's crystal, but much bigger. It was floating, spinning slowly. Eli stepped closer, and the orb lit up. A bright light filled the room. Then, images, memories. Not his, hers. He saw Siria as a child running through silver fields under twin suns. Her people were peaceful, full of laughter and light. Then came the ships, dark, silent, merciless. They dropped black pods into the ground. The pods cracked open, and the shadows came out. They didn't kill. They took. Light, energy, souls. Whole cities turned gray. Her father, a leader, fought to stop them. He created the crystals, light cores to protect survivors. But it wasn't enough. One by one, her world fell, until only Siria remained. She was chosen to carry the last memory core, to escape and warn others. But here's where it got worse. The memory zoomed in on a screen, coordinates, galactic maps, the origin point of the shadows. Eli squinted. Earth. He staggered back. No, that can't be right. But the data didn't lie. Something had started this. A human signal, hundreds of years old, had been picked up in Siria's galaxy. The shadows had followed it, corrupting everything in their path. They weren't just hunting Siria. They were coming home. Eli shut the memory down, heart pounding. He had come to this planet looking for minerals. He had found a war that had started with his own kind. He ran back up to Siria. She was awake. Barely. Her voice was weak, but clear. You saw it. Eli nodded. We did this. Not you, but your signal, your machines, they called the dark. He knelt beside her. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want you to blame yourself. He shook his head. Too late for that. Then he paused. What's in that core? The big one downstairs. She looked at him. A weapon and a choice. Eli frowned. What kind of choice? If I activate it, it can destroy the shadows, but it will also destroy this planet. Eli stood up, pacing. No, there has to be another way. She smiled weakly. There's always another way, but it's slower, harder. Then we take it, Eli said. We fight. She looked at him, studying his face. You're different. He shrugged. Most people would have left you in the snow. I'm not most people. She smiled faintly. I know. Suddenly, alarms blared. The base's outer sensors picked up movement, dozens of signals. The shadows had found them, and this time, they weren't whispering. They were screaming. The lights flickered. The air went cold. A black fog began to leak under the door. Eli looked at Siria. Can you still use the crystal? She nodded slowly. One last time. He held her hand. We end this. Together. The betrayal protocol. The base was dying. Red lights flashed on the walls. The backup power system screamed warnings. The outside security cams were black, and the shadows were here. Eli stood in front of the entrance, holding his blaster. It probably wouldn't help, but it made him feel like he had some control. Siria sat behind him, glowing faintly, still weak. We don't have much time, Eli muttered. Suddenly, beep! A console nearby lit up. Incoming transmission. Origin. Earth Command. Ship Odin 7. Eli blinked. Wait, what? He ran over and slammed the accept button. Static buzzed, then a voice came through. Unit 49B, this is Captain Darius Vole. Earth Command, confirm your location and status. Eli leaned into the mic. Captain, I'm Eli Walker, Planet Zeta 7. I've made contact with a non-hostile alien survivor. We're under attack, code black, extreme threat. A long pause, then, copy that, stand by. Static again. Eli waited. Siria's glow flickered. That voice, it doesn't feel right. Before Eli could reply, the message returned. New orders. Eliminate the alien immediately. Do not let the entity leave the surface. This is Protocol 0, containment priority. Eli froze. What did you just say? Repeat. Do not extract the subject. We are authorized to cleanse the region if Protocol 0 is breached. Eli's mouth went dry. She's not a threat. She saved my life. She saved your species. You don't understand. We understand perfectly, Mr. Walker. The light-based entity holds unstable power, unpredictable, potentially world-ending. If you fail to act, we will. The screen blinked. Auto-targeting satellites activated. 4 minutes to strike. Eli stared in disbelief. They're going to bomb the planet, he whispered. Syria looked at him, eyes wide. Why would they destroy their own man? He laughed, bitterly. Because I helped you, and Earth doesn't trust what it can't control. She stood slowly. Then we leave. Now. They ran back down to the memory chamber. Eli grabbed the large crystal core, the one Syria had shown him. It has power to burn them, she said. We can send it back to space, use it to disable their weapons. Eli's eyes widened. Like a light flare? She nodded. A warning. They brought the crystal to the launch bay, an old satellite drone launcher. Half the wiring was fried, but Eli worked fast, fingers flying, rerouting power from the base's dying systems. Syria placed her hands on the crystal. She closed her eyes, and it began to glow brighter. Brighter than before. Outside, the shadows gathered. They weren't attacking, they were watching, waiting, as if they knew the real danger wasn't them anymore. It was what would come from above. Minutes to strike. Eli locked the crystal into the launch pod. Ready? Syria nodded, weak but focused. Launch it. Eli hit the button. Boom. The pod shot upward through the icy roof, carrying the glowing crystal toward orbit. It soared past the shadows, who turned their heads toward the sky, as if they could feel the light. Then, a blinding pulse. The crystal exploded in space, but it wasn't fire. It was pure light. All over the base, screens flickered. Earth's satellites powered down. Strike protocol. Cancelled. Eli laughed with relief. It worked. But then, beep. New signal. Stronger. Closer. Unauthorized launch detected. Sending in retrieval team. Subject must not leave the surface. He turned to Syria. They're still coming. Suddenly, crash. The roof of the base shattered as a sleek black Earth command ship forced its way inside, landing hard on the platform. Troopers in dark armor stepped out, guns drawn, visors glowing. Step away from the alien. Eli moved in front of Syria. She's not going with you. The lead trooper didn't pause. Last warning. Then, the light changed. It wasn't coming from the base anymore. It was coming from Syria. Her glow turned golden. Her eyes went pure white, and her voice wasn't small anymore. I will not be a prisoner again. Boom. A wave of energy exploded from her chest, sending the troopers flying backward. Their weapons melted in their hands. The air shimmered like glass about to break. She stepped forward, no longer scared, no longer hiding. Eli watched in awe. Whoa. The lead trooper stood barely and raised a small detonator. We'll destroy this base and everything in it before we let her leave. Eli pulled his blaster. Try it. I dare you. Syria raised her hand. The detonator disassembled. In midair, the parts falling like broken toy pieces. The trooper's visor cracked, then shattered. Underneath was a human face. Young, afraid. Syria looked at him. You're not my enemy. You're just afraid of what you don't understand. The man dropped his weapon and backed away. Then, silence. The troopers retreated. The ship took off. Earth Command had failed. Eli walked up to her. Remind me never to get on your bad side. She smiled weakly. You still would have tried to protect me. Yeah, he said. But now I know you didn't need it. Later that night, as the base cooled and the stars came out above, Syria and Eli sat by the window. The shadows were gone. For now. They had felt the light, and feared it. Eli looked up. So, what now? Syria leaned her head back against the wall. I need to finish what my people started. Bring light to places that forgot it. He looked at her, then smiled. Well, I've got a ship. You've got superpowers. Let's go annoy some darkness together. She nodded. But first, she added, we find the source. The source of what? She looked at him seriously. The first signal, the one Earth sent, the one that started everything. Eli's heart skipped. You think it was an accident? She shook her head. I think someone wanted this war. Final stand on the glacier. The glacier stretched endlessly in every direction, a sea of ice under a stormy sky. Eli stood outside the base with Syria beside him, looking out across the frozen wasteland. The wind was silent, too silent. That kind of silence that only comes before something terrible. Eli adjusted the grip on his plasma rifle. They're coming, aren't they? Syria nodded slowly. Her glow was brighter now. Not a soft shimmer, but a steady golden pulse. Like a sun trapped in skin. They were never going to stop, she said. Not until they take what I carry. Eli looked at her confused. You mean the crystal? She shook her head. No. Me. I am the last light. Eli's mouth went dry. You mean, like the power of your entire species is inside you? Yes. He blinked. Okay, that's not terrifying at all. Then, a deep rumble. The ground beneath them trembled. Far out on the glacier, dark figures appeared. Hundreds. Of them shadows, more than before. Taller, faster, smarter, and behind them, something new. A colossal figure. Shadow twisted into a shape like a giant insect god. Glowing cracks ran across its chest like veins of lava. Eli swallowed hard. I'm guessing that's the boss. Syria didn't answer. Her eyes were locked, on it. I've seen it before. It destroyed my city. Eli turned to her. We're not letting it destroy anything else. She looked at him. You need to leave. He stepped back like she'd slapped him. What? You've done enough. You've given me time, protected me, and risked everything. And I'll risk more. You don't get to kick me out now. She looked down. If I use all of my light, I won't survive, not as I am. He stepped closer. Then we find another way, we always do. Suddenly, a crash shook the ice. One of the shadows leapt across the field, landing with a scream just meters from them. Eli shot it mid-air. A direct hit. The creature exploded into dark mist. That was just the scout, Syria said. Yeah, Eli replied. Scout with an attitude. The glacier began to split, cracks spreading like lightning. The shadows were advancing fast. Eli opened his comms. This is Walker. If anyone's still listening, I could really use backup, a miracle, or a giant space chicken, with lasers. Nothing. Static. Figures. The shadows reached the base perimeter. Dozens surrounded it, tendrils snaking over the metal walls. Black fog curling toward the launch bay. Syria raised her hands. The air shimmered. The fog stopped. The creatures hissed. She stepped forward and whispered something in her native tongue. The light burst from her like a tidal wave, blinding white and gold. 10 shadows vaporized on impact. But she stumbled back, weak. I can't do that again, she whispered. Not without all of it. Eli caught her. Then don't, save it, we'll hold them. She looked into his eyes. Together? He nodded. Always. Then the sky darkened. The massive Shadow King stepped forward, slow, deliberate, and unbothered by the others dying around him. Its voice rumbled across the ice like thunder from the underworld. The light belongs to us. She is the last. Her end is your end. Eli aimed his rifle. Yeah? Well, I never liked bullies. He fired. The blast hit the creature's chest and did nothing. The king raised its hand. A beam of black energy shot forward, hitting the base. The wall exploded. Syria screamed. Eli grabbed her and ran for cover. But the light in her chest pulsed again, stronger than before. She turned, eyes glowing like stars. No more running. She floated off the ground. Her skin burned gold. Her hair rose like flames. The air rippled with heat and light. The shadows paused. Even the king. She raised both hands and released everything. A supernova of energy burst from her body. Silent, pure, and divine. The glacier lit up like daylight. The shadows disintegrated. The cracks in the ice sealed. Even the wind stopped to watch. The Shadow King howled in rage, charging toward her. Eli, barely able to see through the light, shouted, "Syria, wait!" But she didn't stop. She became the light. The blast hit the king head on. For a moment, there was silence. Then, nothing. No creature, no fog, just a glowing crater of melted ice. And in the center, Eli stood alone. Syria. He ran toward the crater, slipping, shouting her name. He reached the center and fell to his knees. She was gone. No body. No crystal. Only a small, faintly glowing feather of light. Floating down, he caught it in his hands, held it to his chest, tears in his eyes. She saved us. And then, a spark. The light in his hand pulsed once and sank into his chest. Eli gasped. A whisper echoed in his mind. Not gone. Just changed. He stood, different, stronger. A faint golden glow around him now, and in the sky, the storm cleared. Stars filled the heavens. The darkness was gone. For now. Silence. For the first time since Eli Walker landed on Zeta 7, the world was silent. No wind, no whispers, no shadows. The glacier stretched like a battlefield made of stars, cracks still glowing faintly from Syria's final light. And in the center of it all, Eli stood alone, but not empty. The spark she left behind pulsed inside his chest. He could feel it, warm, alive, ancient. He wasn't sure what it meant. He only knew it was her. Somewhere, somehow, Syria lived on. The next few days blurred together. Eli returned to the old base, what was left of it, and scavenged what he could. The Earth Command troops had fled after the blast, and no signal had returned since. But he knew they were watching, waiting. On the fourth night, as stars blinked across the sky, Eli sat outside, the icy wind brushing his face. And then, he heard her, a soft whisper, inside his mind. "You're still here." He froze. "Syria? Part of me. Yes. I didn't know if you... I didn't leave you. I became something else." He looked up at the stars. "What does that mean?" "I gave you the last of my light. It's yours now. But not just as a weapon, as a choice." "A choice for what?" "To become more. Or to return to what you were." He closed his eyes. "I don't know if I'm ready for either." Silence. Then, "The light trusts you, and so do I." The next morning, Earth Command returned. A sleek new warship hovered above the glacier, casting a cold shadow. A voice crackled through loudspeakers. "Eli Walker, you are ordered to surrender. The alien entity is believed to be integrated into your body. You are classified as unstable." Eli didn't answer. "You have 1 minute to comply." He smiled bitterly. Of course, can't have one glowing guy ruining their perfect little systems. He walked to the cliff edge and stared up at the ship. The light in his chest flickered. Not angry. Just aware. Last warning. He raised his hand. Not to fight, to signal. Suddenly, from beneath the ice, came light. The last piece of Syria's crystal, buried during the battle, pulsed upward, forming a beam of energy that reached into the sky. The Earthship trembled, their sensors overloaded. Inside the ship, commanders panicked. "What is that? He's triggering something. Weapons offline, shields failing." Eli stood calm, glowing brighter. His voice echoed not through speakers, but straight into their minds. "I'm not your enemy. I never was. She wasn't either. You came here to erase a threat, but what you feared was the cure." The ship began to fall back, slowly, cautiously. Eli could have destroyed them, but he didn't. He let them go. Later, in the ruins of the base, Eli found a hidden chamber Syria had never shown him. Inside were dozens of crystal cores, dim but still holding memory fragments, and a message, in her voice, recorded long before they met. "If you are hearing this, I have become the light, and you, human, have been chosen to carry what remains of our kind. You can run, or you can rebuild. Let the stars remember who we were." Weeks passed. Eli built a new signal, tower from the crystals and scraps of the base, but not to call Earth, to call others. Other survivors. Other voices lost in the dark. The message he sent wasn't one of fear or warning. It was hope. "This is Eli Walker, Zeta 7. I carry the last light. If you can hear this, you are not alone." One night, months later, as Eli prepared to power up his rebuilt Starskimmer ship, he heard something behind him, a soft pulse. He turned, and there, in the snow, stood a figure. Small, glowing faintly. Eyes familiar. Syria's form, not fully, solid, not fully gone, a projection from the light within him. She smiled. "You're doing it." He nodded. "I'm trying. You were never meant to be ordinary, Eli. That's why I found you." He walked to her, reached out, and his hand passed through hers, but the warmth remained. "Where do I go now?" he asked. She looked up at the stars. "Wherever there is dark. Bring the light." Final scene. Eli climbs into the ship. The engine glows, not with fuel, but with Syria's light tech powering it. He lifts off, the planet, the glacier falling away beneath him. As he soars into the stars, his voice echoes once more. They tried to end her story here, but this is where it begins. I am Eli Walker, Lightbearer, and I'm coming.